Hey guys, or hey y'all, hey ladies. Sorry, I am born and raised in San Diego, California, so I say hey guys all the time. But I also say y'all a lot now that I've lived in Oklahoma and Texas for several years. um, Today is Monday, and so we are going to be discussing one of my favorite topics. Not because I've mastered it by any means, but it's something that is very dear to my heart as far as wanting to accomplish and constantly wanting to make better, and that is our marriages. And so for Mondays, I picked Marriage Magic. And I mean, what wife doesn't want to have a magical marriage? What wife doesn't want her husband to cherish her? What wife, doesn't care if she's happy in her marriage or doesn't care if her husband is happy with her? I think that's something that us as wives, we naturally want that. We desire that. And a lot of times we don't get it. And it's not to say that it's always the fault of the wife, but the wife has a huge role in how the marriage is going to play out. And I would honestly say, and I could be wrong, but I would honestly say more of a role than even the man. But so today I was going to talk about two subjects. Hopefully I can get both of them in because I think they're both extremely important, and they're kind of opposite each other. So the first one, I just want to dive right into it, is going to be on trust. Does your husband trust you? Does your husband feel like he can confide in you? Does your husband feel like whatever he says to you or reveals to you is safe with you? Or is your husband hold everything in? He doesn't communicate with you. He doesn't allow you to know his deepest, darkest thoughts and secrets because maybe he's afraid you have a big mouth. Maybe he's afraid that you're gonna, talk to your friends about it, or maybe he's afraid that you'll laugh at him, or that you'll take advantage of his vulnerability. And so these are always questions that as wives we have to ask ourselves, and I've had to do this big time because I'll give you a personal story here. I don't even know how many years ago it was, but I always felt like, for those of you that know me or follow me on Facebook or Instagram, social media of any kind, I'm an open book. I'm not a very private person, in the sense that I'm worried or don't want other people to see things, or even if they're negative things. Like, I'm an open book. I'm going to talk about when I'm happy, and I'm going to talk about when I'm like totally feeling like a fat cow. So I'm good with that. But my husband is the opposite. He is a very private person. He has a very, very small circle, which I do too, but social media is a big circle. So as far as my personal relationships, I have a small circle, but social media wise, I have a very big circle because most of the time I've been some type of business owner, and so I ran my business through social media because I'm homeschooling my kids. So for me, social media is not private at all. Like, I'm very open book on there. But I mean, I don't tell everything, and so I don't talk about my marriage. If we have marriage problems, I'm not going to talk about that on social media. If I'm having, major issues with my kids, some deep-seated issues or things that arise, I'm not going to go on social media about that. But as far as like regular day-to-day life stuff that I know everybody's dealing with on a general level, I'm an open book. But my husband is very private. It doesn't matter if it's social media, if it's in person, if it's, with me, he's a very private person. And so I don't even remember what it was. It was something to do with work, I believe. And this was years ago, and I have a horrible memory. But he had told me something. And I believe he even said, like, please don't repeat this, because he knows I have a couple of really close best friends. And he had asked me, please don't even say anything to them. And for me, it was nothing like private. It wasn't like a big time secret that would embarrass him. I mean, it was nothing like that. It had to do with work and maybe like a position or something like that. And so he had told me that, and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I don't know how much time had passed, and he is sitting right next to me, and we are with one of our really close friends, and in us just chit-chatting and talking, I was like, oh yeah, no, no, no. And I said something, the very thing that he had asked me not to say, and he was sitting right there. So it wasn't like I was trying to be sneaky. I wasn't trying to, go behind his back or, tell it when he told me not to tell. Like, I seriously, he was sitting right there with me and I didn't even think twice about it because in my mind, it wasn't that big of a deal. It was something I was excited for him. And I had told my friend about it, and the look that he gave me, I was like, oops, and it was at that moment that this verse, and we're going to go to Proverbs 31. For those of you that are familiar with Proverbs, that's kind of, the virtuous woman chapter. But Proverbs 31, verses 11 and 12. And it says, "The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life." But that first part of 11, the heart of her husband doth safely trust in her. This is the husband of the virtuous woman. This is how he feels. This is how he regards his wife. That didn't really ever make sense to me until this moment. Now, this is probably maybe 8 years ago. I don't remember, but it was a long time ago. And I knew that I had messed up because he had specifically asked me not to say anything. But as far as I was concerned of what I was telling or my motive behind me saying it, it was not evil. It was not bad. Like I said, it was not sneaky. It was just flippant to me. And so at that moment, I realized that if I ever want my husband to trust me and feel like he can confide in me, even if I don't think it's a big deal, if it's a big deal to him, if he wants it private, then I should respect that. And it should be such a big deal that I won't forget it, because that's really what happened in that situation. Is it was just flippant to me. It was nothing other than I was excited, and so I was talking to our dear close friend. But as a wife, if we want our husbands to communicate, which is something I hear a lot of women say, women are usually, generally speaking, better communicators than men. We're usually, generally speaking, more in tune with our emotions and our feelings and being able to verbalize those than men. And so a lot of times we have women that are just we want that. And I want that for my husband. I'm always telling my husband, communicate with me. Why don't you ever, get into deep conversations with me? And he's just actually what he tells me is, well, I know that you like to talk, so I like to let people who like to talk a lot talk. That's what he says to me. But he is an amazing listener. My husband is an amazing listener. And that is a whole nother skill set in and of itself. And we could all learn from that too. Because sometimes our husbands might feel like we might feel as wives oh yeah, we're great communicators. We're very forthcoming with how we feel, and the things that we are struggling with or the things that we need to change in our marriage and things like that. But are we good listeners? And that's something that I have to work on really, really hard. But my husband is a wonderful listener, and so even though I would like for him to talk a little bit more, I know that when he's silent, that he's listening, he's processing, he's taking heed to what I'm saying, and he's pondering it. Even if he doesn't discuss his ponderings with me, I know that he is, and then it will come out later in his actions, not necessarily his words. But we all have different relationships as far as, your husband might be the talker and you might be the good listener, and we all have to deal with that. But that is one thing that as wives that we want to aspire to, which is for our husbands, as it says in verse 11 of chapter 31 in Proverbs, the heart of her husband doth safely trust in her. Does your husband's heart, does he safely trust you with it? Does he know that you're not going to go blab everything he says to you? Does he know that you're not going to go, when you get angry, go gossip with your friends about him? Does he trust that maybe if he's having personal problems or spiritual problems or whatever that only, married couples would know about, that you're not going to go blast him, all over social media or all over to your your coffee shop friends, salon friends or whatever. So as wives, we want our husbands to trust us. We want them to feel safe. We want them to feel like their information or their well-being is safe with us. And so that is one thing that I wanted to bring to our attention today. What is the other thing I wrote? Oh, and then in verse 12, it says, she will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. Now, when you think of the word evil, I kind of think of I'm not going to try to murder him. I'm not going to try to, bash his windows in. Obviously, we're probably not thinking that type of stuff. So then, what would be evil? What would be considered evil to our husband? And so we have to ask ourselves that, you can't, I don't expect you to tell me what those are, but you have to think of your own relationship with him. And do you feel like your motive in life or your job in life is to do your husband good and not evil? That doesn't mean stagnant. That doesn't mean, well, I'm not saying anything wrong. I'm not doing anything wrong. Well, what are you doing? So we're to do good and not evil. And so we can ask ourselves as wives, what are we doing good for our husbands? And if we're not, what can we start doing good for our husbands? And so, you have to ask yourself that, and maybe you can jot those down if you're taking notes. I had mentioned this previously, one of the things that sometimes that we deal with, and just, we're human beings. You're a human being, your husband's a human being. You guys are coming together in this union, and you're supposed to become one, and that's really difficult because you have your own set of thoughts and minds and opinions, and he has his. So, with this trust idea or not doing evil, the thing that got me into trouble was what he was telling me in the sense of people knowing was not a big deal. Like, to my mind, it was not a big deal. Well, he's a private person, and even if it's not a big deal, he didn't want it to go outside of just him and I. And so I was doing him evil when, one, I didn't take it into consideration how much he just wanted it to be between him and I. And two, that I then forgot about it and just blabbed about it to our friend with him sitting right there. Like, hello, Natasha, that should have been like a reminder, but it wasn't, and so that was doing evil. It was not doing him good when I did that. And so even if it's not a big deal to you, even if you don't think like, well, why would he care if I said this? Like, it's not like a top secret, agent, classified information. It doesn't matter. If your husband has trusted you with something, you either already know you shouldn't be talking about it based on what it is, or if he specifically says, honey, please don't talk to your friends about this or whatever, and so that is a way that we can do evil, or that is a way that we can do good by honoring that. And again, some people are just private people, and that's not a bad thing in and of itself. Even if you're not, even if you are the open book, like I say I am, it's okay. Either or is okay as long as people are not getting hurt in the process. So I say I'm an open book, but I'm going to do everything I can not to, humiliate my children or my husband. I would never, do that. If I embarrass them, it's usually because I'm bragging on them. Because my husband's a private person, he doesn't like me to brag on him publicly, but I do that anyway. So, and that I know it probably makes him feel good more in the sense of it makes him feel bad, So to me, that's one of the ways that I feel like I can do him good is by acknowledging the great things that he is to me and in our family and our kids, and the type of father he is and the type of husband he is. And so we just really always want to kind of keep that in mind, at the forefront of our mind. As wives, we want to do good to our husbands and not evil, and we want our husbands to trust us and feel safe with us with information that they may have. And so are we honoring that in our husbands as wives? So again, that was Proverbs 31 verse 11 and 12. And so those were on that verse, those are the kind of the main points that I wanted to hit. Now the second topic is I know in marriages that this is a big issue, and we're going to talk about intimacy in sexual matters or lovemaking and things like this. So you guys, it is not bad. It is not ugly. It is not dirty. It is not, the marriage bed is undefiled. The scriptures tell us. But I know that so many marriages are lacking this in their relationship, and ours has on and off throughout the 18 years, almost 18 years that we've been married. So this is a common problem. Kids come, hormones change, lives get busy, chaotic. You might have financial trouble. So then, there's stress on the marriage. So that's the last thing you want to be thinking about is, intimacy and things like that. But it is so vitally important, ladies, like at the top of the list important. Not in the sense of physically for us, physically for them is extremely important. I mean, if you're just talking about physically, biologically, makeup, the way God made men and the way God made women, for them, it is like at the top of the list. Even if it's not physically at the top of the list for women, for the marriage relationship, because God, the way God set it up, it is at the top of the list for women too. There is no greater way to get closer to your spouse than through intimate sexual relationship. And I don't just mean the physical act, but I mean the vulnerability that both of you share when you come together in that way makes your marriage stronger. Just that in and of itself. And so that is something that you do with your spouse that you are not doing with anyone else in the world. You can work with other people. You can work with your husband. You can fight with other people. You can fight with your husband. You can give gifts to other people. You can give gifts to your husband. You can, anything else in the world you can do with other people. But that is something that you only do with your husband. So that is the one thing that separates you and your husband from the rest of the world and brings you two together closer as one. And so I wanted to hit on, if you go to Song of Songs, chapter 1, and let me go there, in verse 2, we're going to hit verse 2 first. And when we read this, I want you to actually imagine, do you feel this way about your husband? Is this how you view your husband when he leans in to kiss you, or when he leans in to initiate some kind of physical relationship with you? Is this how you receive him? And if it's not, Song of Songs is in scripture. This is a godly relationship. And I'm going to give you a book to read, because Song of Solomon is kind of hard to interpret, because this is not the language that we use today. And so I never even knew what half of it meant. But verse 2 of chapter 1, let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for thy love is better than wine. So when your husband is coming to you, ladies, in whether it's to kiss you, whether it's to wrap his arms around you, hug you, whether it's to give you a massage that we know sometimes leads to other stuff, foot rub, kiss on the forehead, whatever. When your husband approaches you in a physical way to show affection, is this how we receive him? Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for thy love is better than wine. Which wine was a hot commodity. I mean, it's grape juice. It took a lot of work to get the grape juice. It was something that was expensive. And so, the fresh grape juice, the fresh fruit of the vine was expensive. You had to have not a flask, but I forgot what they called it, but, something to hold it in that would keep it fresh and things like this. So she's saying that something very valuable as wine or grape juice is better than his love for her and his affection towards her. So we have to ask ourselves as wives, do we view our husbands like that? And if we don't, why? Where is the breakdown? Where is the disconnect? And that's what we need to go to first and start working on that. Because if you want to have a magical marriage or a heavenly marriage or just a wonderful life together, that's never going to happen if you guys do not view each other like this. And so we really, really want to try to focus on that. The second verse is chapter 1, verse 13. Let me see. A bundle of myrrh is my well beloved unto me. He shall lie all night betwixt my breast. Okay, you guys. Song of Solomon is full of great stuff for married couples only. But let me read that again. A bundle of myrrh, which is like a perfume, is my well-beloved, saying that her well-beloved, that's how she views him, as something as precious and expensive as a bundle of myrrh. He shall lie all night betwixt my breasts. Okay, if I'm gonna be honest, I don't like to cuddle when I sleep. I love affection outside. I like to hold hands. I want his arm around me. I want to, sit as close as I can to him in the pew in worship. I love that kind of physical. I love hugs. I love all that kind of stuff. But when I'm going to bed, I want to sleep. I don't like anything touching me. I don't even like my own skin touching me. I have to put blankets and pillows between my arms and stuff because I don't like that. My husband's a cuddler. It took me a lot of years to get used to that. But he's a cuddler. He's not really affectionate outside of the room. But even when he's just going to sleep, he is like a teddy bear. And he cannot go to sleep unless he's laying all up on me. And he will always go to sleep first. He goes to sleep fast. And then usually sometime in the night, he'll roll over in his sleep. But how do I view that? It used to get on my nerves because I didn't like that. But as I grew in my marriage and I grew in my maturity and I grew in my knowledge of what a wife is to be and the helpmeet to be to my husband, even something as small as that, sleeping in the room, nobody else sees that. It's just him and I. But what it says in 13, he shall lie all night betwixt my breasts. So I had to learn to love that. I had to learn to appreciate that my husband wanted to come home to me every night. He wanted to cuddle with me every night. You better believe that there's a lot of other women out there that would have loved for my husband to be cuddling them. And then his wife is over here getting mad because she don't want anybody touching her when she's sleeping. And so I had to learn and change my mind towards my husband that I want him to want to come home to me. I want him to want to cuddle me, even though I don't need the cuddling because physically speaking, it's uncomfortable for me. But I had to change my mindset. And so that's what we're talking about here, ladies, is changing our mindset as wives to the mindset that God would have us have, the way he wants us to view our husbands. And so we have to do that. Not only if we want to be pleasing to God, but if we want to have a magical marriage. God is the perfect author of marriage. So he knows exactly what the man needs. He knows exactly what the woman needs. And he tells both of us what to give the other one. So it's our job to obey it and do it. And then we get to reap the benefits from it. So now it's kind of funny, almost 18 years later, even though I'm still not a cuddly person when I sleep, if he doesn't cuddle with me when he goes to bed, I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, are we fighting? Because I told you he don't talk a lot. So I'm like, are you mad at me? Like, did I miss something? Because I know that is where his comfort is to be cuddling right there, if you, for lack of better words and using the terminology of Song of Songs, between my breasts. Like, that is where he loves to fall asleep. And so as wives, we want to appreciate that. Or if your husband likes you to cuddle him, like maybe you like to lean over and lay on him. It makes a man feel like, he's important to his wife when they can be close together. And so I just kind of wanted to bring out those points. We're already getting to 21 minutes. I'm so sorry, but I love this topic. And like I said, I have not mastered this, and we have an ebb and flow in our relationship, just like a lot of people do. And usually when it's down, it's because one of us isn't doing what we're supposed to be doing. And then as soon as we both get back on the same page, which is God's page, all of a sudden our marriage gets better. All of a sudden we're not so nitpicky at each other. All of a sudden we enjoy each other's company more. I mean, it's amazing to watch, and when you've been married kind of a long time, you get to see that. And so I'm, like I said, I have not mastered this. There's times when I'm just like, I don't really care how he's feeling right now. I don't feel like doing it. And yes, I'm being selfish. That is what I'm being, which is ungodly. And in that moment in our marriage or that moment in time, if I feel like being like that, I just better be ready to accept the consequences, which is a cold shoulder from him, silent treatment from him, whatever is going on in that time frame of our marriage. But if I'm refusing to live as God would have me live and respond to my husband in the way that God is telling me to respond to my husband, then I better just be ready to accept the consequences of that. And that is a cold marriage. It's not a magical marriage. And so, we do have our ebb and flows. And as we get older, we have a lot less bad times. But you got to get there, y'all. You got to fight hard. And so I just really wanted to bring that out. Our husbands it is a necessity, and they want us to want them. Okay? Even if they never ask for it verbally. They need it. God made them to need it. God in Genesis said he created Adam. There was no mate suitable for him. He needed woman. God made woman for man because he needed her. Our husbands need us, even if they never ask. I'm telling you because God told me in his word, and if you read his word, he told you too. They need us. They need us, and they want us to want them. Okay? Who doesn't want to feel wanted? If you ask yourself that, do you want your husband to want you? Maybe not always sexually, but do you want him to want you as a person? Do you want him to feel like he couldn't live life without you, like he would be lost without you? Any normal human wife would say that. So, duh, we're all human. But our husbands are no different. And so we need to do that as wives. We need to make our husbands feel wanted. And yes, that includes sexually. It just does. And I'm going to tell you, you need to get this book. Write this down. The book is called Holy Sex, and it is written by Michael Pearl, and it is an amazing book. It is clean. All he does is take the language in Song of Songs and interprets it into like today's meaning, like what that would mean, like what that meant what those specific terms and words meant back then. He tells us what they meant. And I'm telling you, I'm not a big reader, and I read that book in one night, and it's amazing. So definitely read that book. It's called Holy Sex. It's only like this big, and it's on the Song of Songs. and it's written by Michael Pearl. But I'm telling you, wives, you need to read that book. It is an amazing book, and this is a whole book in God's Word that I had stayed away from for so many years because I didn't understand the language. I didn't. That doesn't. A lot of that didn't mean anything to me. I didn't know what, you know. I am black, but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Like, I don't even know what that means. Like, that's not even English to me. So, this book is amazing. Holy Sex by Michael Pearl. You need to order it on Amazon. It's like $8, super cheap. Or even get it on Kindle so you can read it immediately. But I would love for y'all ladies to read that, and I want to hear your feedback on it because it is a great book. And it helps us in that area of the sexual intimate relationship with our husbands to be better. And I'm telling you, when that's better, your marriage will get better. It's not the only thing, but it is a huge thing. So, again, we cannot be selfish with that. So our society has taught women that is a tool or that is a weapon. And even in the Lord's church, women are being brought up to watching their mothers be bitter and resentful like in that way, or they've been taught their whole life that sex is bad, sex is dirty, sex is evil, you stay away from it, and then they get married and they're just supposed to automatically turn it off like, oh, I'm supposed to be a sex pot now for my husband. Like, we're doing it wrong. Sex is beautiful. It is pure. And this is what I teach my daughter. It is pure. It is beautiful. It's holy. It's amazing. But within the bounds of marriage. Outside of marriage, it's evil and dirty and gross and disgusting and all of those other negative, terms. But within the bound of marriage, it is a wonderful, beautiful gift from God, ladies. It is a gift from God. And not only in the physical sense, but in the spiritual sense, in the emotional sense, in the mental sense. I mean, you scientifically speaking, when you talk about all the stressors of life that are released during that time, everything about it is beautiful in the bounds of marriage. And so we need to take advantage of that. We're wives. We are blessed. We are lucky. And I need to listen to myself too. Like, this is a blessing from God. Why are we not utilizing it? And so much of what we want as wives from our husbands, we will receive when we obey God in that one area. Okay? So I'm so excited because I'm seriously telling y'all, your marriage will change. Get this book, Holy Sex by Michael Pearl. It will go over Song of Songs with you, and you will have a better understanding, and you will feel very blessed because you have the knowledge, and then hopefully you will apply it in your marriage. But I just wanted to kind of hit on those two things. I'm going to wrap this up. So the two things that are really, really important to our husbands and that we should be doing as wives, their helpmeets, is doing our husband good and not evil all the days of his life, making sure that our husband knows that he can trust us. He can trust us with his heart, and having that sexual intimate relationship with him, and realizing how important it is, and not doing it like check mark, okay, I did my wifely duty, like ugh, like that's not what I'm talking about. Physically that will help them, but it's not going to help them emotionally. It's not going to help them look at you any with a more positive light when you're making him feel like he's a burden to you. Like, no one is going to feel special when they feel like they're bothering you. So when I talk about, sexual intimacy, I mean where you are like this woman in Song of Songs when she's saying in verse 2, let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for thy love is better than wine. How do you view your husband's, the way he comes at you? How do you view him? Are you excited when he comes home from work? If you're not, you guys, you're not going to change him. You need to change yourself. I had to change myself, and I'm still working on myself. But I wish you guys all the best. I'm so excited. I hope you guys apply these things. I hope you pray about your marriage to the Lord. I hope that whatever it is that you're dealing with, that you will take it to the Lord. If you need advice or help or need more scriptures to kind of help you piece all this stuff together, if there's other issues going on, I'm telling you, the answers are found in God's word. So I love you guys. I hope you have a great Monday. I hope you will learn to have a magical marriage, and it takes hard work, but it is so worth it. So everything you do, I hope you do to the glory of God. And I pray that, I'll see you guys again tomorrow. So talk to y'all later. Bye.